Thank you very much, Secretary. And let me just say, I know it's been mentioned before, the President in his State of the Union address said that the country needs an all-out, all-of-the-above strategy and develops every available source of American energy. A strategy that we all agree is cleaner, cheaper, but full of all new jobs, and also hopefully keeping the jobs we already have. I want to show you a chart that we put together, and this information is taken from the EIA, your own department, showing where we are as far as the first through 2010, 24% of our energy coming from natural gas, 10% renewables, 45% coal, and 20% from nuclear and oil and other liquids. This is from your agency. Going out to 2035, 2 more decades, this is where you are. 27% will be coming from natural gas, renewables 16%, coal still at 39%, and the rest at 18%. With that being said, the President's budget basically had $2.7 billion that you all submitted for the energy efficiency, renewable energy at 47% increase from current levels. If you'll hold this one up, Tom, so you can see the comparison. Stand up. This is where your money's going. This is what you're going to get out of the investment. This is by your own. And then you have the Office of Nuclear Energy. Nuclear is right here. It's where you're going. This is where you are. You've cut 19, I mean, the greatest cut has been right here. And you're still going to be dependent on it, and we can do it much cleaner. I can't figure the rationale, and what I would say is when you look at, take all of the above that the President said, and you look at the energy strategy when you're cutting funding to resources, that'll continue to provide the energy that we're dependent upon by your own estimation. Doesn't make sense, sir. Doesn't make any sense at all that we can't do it better, cleaner, and work together, because you sure are putting this out there. We're going to be able to depend on it. We need it. So I don't know if you have a comment on this in relation. It seemed like there's not a balance here at all.
Well, what we're doing, as you know, during the Recovery Act, there was very large investments in clean coal partnerships and helping test, deploy some clean coal technologies. But unfortunately, a lot of the companies who had to supply matching funds, at least 50%, have pulled out. But there's some hope, and we're still pushing this as much as we can because we do believe that we have to develop technologies to use coal cleanly, which means not only the normal pollutants, but also the capture of the carbon dioxide. And so we still remain committed to that. However, because of this changing landscape of companies not wanting to invest in large projects, sometimes hundreds of millions to billion-dollar projects or multi-billion-dollar projects, but we do see a path forward in having carbon capture, and utilization, and sequestration.
Sir, I hate to interrupt you on it because our times are so limited here, but you can keep those up. That's very important. With what, there's no coordination, as I can see, from the Environmental Protection Agency trying to work with you all to develop policies and be able to use the energy that we're depending upon. That's where the disconnect comes. And what we're asking for is somebody's got to be talking to somebody, coordinating it so we can continue from what you're depending upon to be able to use it and use it cleaner within the environmental standards that we're setting, but there's no one working together. And I will say this, last year when you came before us, you said the Department of Energy was eager to promote research on coal to liquids that blended biomass into the fuel and had carbon capture and sequestration technology. And then you said also coal to liquids with carbon capture and sequestration actually makes very clean fuels. And then once you start blending in biomass, it becomes a real plus. It becomes carbon neutral in the tailpipe emissions. So for that reason, the Department of Energy is very eager to promote that type of research. Last year, your budget had $5 million in funding for that research. This year, zero. Have you changed your position? What is the administration's position now? And why would you have such a reversal?
I'm going to have to look at that and get back to you on that. I do think that any coal to liquids with carbon capture, and as you blend in biofuels, and this is also true of co-firing biomatter with a coal plant, and if you capture the carbon dioxide after a certain percentage, it goes with carbon capture, it actually goes negative. So you're actually net sucking carbon out of the air.
Right. And I think you testified last year.
Right.
We have people wanting to do this type, and the roadblocks are insurmountable because it looks like the administration is saying one thing, but they're pushing and promoting because of where you're making your investments. And I think this shows completely where you're making your investments without taking into consideration what brought you to the dance and what you're expecting. If you look at natural gas and coal and what we have there, you're talking about 66% of the energy for the next 2 decades with very little money going into them.
Well, as I said, the research for carbon capture and storage technologies we can fund, when it gets to be very expensive, it gets to be on the deployment side. This is a chart of electricity, which is a major part of our energy, but about 38% of our energy is from oil. And if you took the, as I tried to point out before, our budget doesn't reflect the percentage of energy we use, therefore those dollars go into that percentage. The oil industry is a very mature industry, and we don't think, even though it's 38% of our total energy budget, we're not going to put 38% of our DOE budget in that. We do think that carbon capture, getting coal clean, is very important. But as I said
oil
repeatedly,
recovery, we can use enhanced oil recovery. There's so many things we can use it for.
I absolutely agree with
But
you.
sir, your
and
budget doesn't reflect that.
Well,
I'm sorry. I know we have a difference. Thank you.